So what if I told you that almost every single hour you have spent trying to fix your flaws?
Every single hour.
Yeah, every hour you've spent trying to correct your shortcomings and, round out your personality has been a complete and utter waste of your life.
That is a massive statement to start with.
I know, but just hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
Picture this. It is a completely mundane Tuesday morning. You are standing in front of your bathroom mirror,
Okay, I am there.
and you can feel the cold, hard reality of the ceramic tiles right through your cotton socks, right?
Ugh, yes. The worst feeling.
Exactly. The extractor fan is humming that low, monotonous drone in the background. The steam from the shower is slowly fading off the glass.
Revealing your reflection piece by fractured piece.
Right. And from the kitchen down the hall, you can smell slightly over-roasted morning coffee wafting in. It's sharp and bitter.
That's a very specific mood.
It really does. And the moment you make eye contact with yourself in that mirror, the mental inventory just immediately begins.
It's totally automatic.
Almost involuntary, right? You instantly zero in on the tired bags under your eyes.
Oh, always.
You spot a newly discovered gray hair catching that harsh overhead light. And then, before you even realize it is happening, the physical critiques seamlessly shift into mental ones.
That is exactly how it goes, the spiral.
The spiral. It's the lingering, heavy guilt over a personal project you have completely stalled on.
Or the creeping dread of a task at work today.
Yes, a task that, deep down in your bones, you just are not naturally equipped for. It is absolutely exhausting.
And the day has not even officially started yet.
Exactly.
It is a universally recognizable scene, honestly. And the tragedy of it is just how mundane we consider that level of self-interrogation.
We just accept it as normal.
Right. That morning inventory is rarely a celebration, is it? It's an aggressive audit of our deficits.
An aggressive audit. Wow, that's a great way to put it.
We wake up and immediately step onto this punishing, endless treadmill of self-optimization.
Because we feel like we have to.
Yeah, we live in an era where the underlying cultural assumption is that we are somehow fundamentally flawed.
Or at least dangerously incomplete.
Exactly. And so we spend our limited time, our finite cognitive energy, trying to, quote-unquote, fix ourselves.
We work relentlessly on our weaknesses.
Trying to patch the holes in our abilities. But, why does trying so hard to improve ourselves feel like trying to sprint through waist-deep wet sand?
Oh, that wet sand feeling is so visceral.
Right. Why do we wake up feeling like we are already behind on a test we never even registered for?
It feels like you are constantly trying to catch up to this, heavily edited, idealized version of yourself.
A version that does not actually exist anywhere in physical reality.
No, it doesn't. And that actually brings us to the core mission of our exploration today.
Let's get into it.
We are going to unpack a collection of anonymous, transformative developmental texts that completely flip the script on the entire self-improvement industry.
You really do. It's a total reversal.
The goal today is to discover why completely ignoring your flaws.
Just leaving them entirely unattended.
Right. Why doing that might actually be your ultimate superpower.
Which sounds crazy, I know.
It does. And beyond that, we'll talk about how a radical lifelong vow to yourself is the actual mechanical key to true psychological freedom.
It is a profound paradigm shift. And honestly, it's a deeply uncomfortable one for a lot of high achievers.
Oh, absolutely, because society constantly conditions us to fixate on the negative, right?
Always. To look at the gap between where we are and where we quote-unquote should be.
Right.
The texts we are examining today argue that we must completely abandon that framework of self-correction.
Just throw it out entirely.
Exactly. We have to move toward a framework of self-amplification instead.
Self-amplification. I like the sound of that.
It is about taking a ruthless inventory of what you already possess and turning the volume up to the maximum possible level.
Rather than trying to tune out the static of your inherent weaknesses.
Exactly.
I want to push on that framework a bit, though.
Yeah.
Because the way we currently do things just feels so unnatural. But it is all we know.
Right, it's ingrained.
Trying to fix your weaknesses all the time, it's like trying to write a complex novel with your non-dominant hand.
But that is a perfect analogy.
Like, sure, if you practice for 5 years, you could eventually make the letters legible. People can read the words.
But the cognitive load is massive.
Exactly. The process is frustrating, it is painstakingly slow, and it just drains absolutely all the joy out of the story you were trying to tell.
You spend all your mental RAM just trying to form the loops of the letters.
Instead of actually expressing the overarching narrative idea.
And the terrifying part of that analogy is what you lose in the process.
What do you mean?
Well, you achieve basic legibility, right? But you sacrifice absolute brilliance.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You trade your potential for genius just to be adequate at something you were never meant to do anyway.
That is so depressing.
It is. And this brings us to a foundational concept. Now, I know we do not need to spend 20 minutes debunking the myth of the blank slate.
No, we know that's outdated.
Right, we all know the mid-century psychological theory that we are born as unwritten pages has been dismantled for decades.
We arrive with heavily ingrained innate traits.
Genetic predispositions, hardwired neurobiological frameworks, all of it.
Right, we all accept the science that we are not blank slates. But the disconnect is that the modern marketing machinery around success still operates as if we are.
Oh, 100%.
We're bombarded constantly with the curated end results of highly successful people.
The billionaire's morning routine.
Yes, the star athlete's championship ring, the brilliant artist's retrospective.
And modern marketing manipulates us into looking at those highly polished highlight reels.
And feeling a deep, crushing inadequacy about our messy, uncoordinated behind the scenes.
Exactly. We logically know we have innate limits, yet we mistakenly believe that to be successful, we must grind away at our weaknesses.
Until we achieve this mythical, impossible status of being completely well-rounded.
The pursuit of being well-rounded is essentially the pursuit of mediocrity.
Say that again.
The pursuit of being well-rounded is essentially the pursuit of mediocrity. The source material defines strengths and weaknesses in a way that just bypasses all of that external noise.
It strips away the billionaire comparisons.
Completely. A strength is not defined by comparing yourself to a historical genius or a gold medal Olympian.
Right.
The text defines a strength as simply anything you do better than your own personal average.
Wait, really? Just my own average?
That's it. You draw a baseline of your general daily capabilities. Anything that naturally sits above that line is a strength.
And a weakness is just anything that falls below my personal average.
Precisely.
So it is an entirely internal, closed system of measurement. I am only competing against the median line of my own brain.
That is the crucial distinction here. If you are, generally okay at most administrative tasks,
Right.
but you possess this uncanny, intuitive ability to de-escalate angry people.
Like talking down a furious client in 3 minutes.
Exactly. That de-escalation is a massive strength.
Right. It's way above the baseline.
On the flip side, if you are completely incapable of spatial reasoning and assembling office furniture, furniture takes you 6 hours and ends in tears.
We've been there.
We all have. That is a weakness. The tragedy of the human condition right now is that we spend our entire lives, our best energetic years.
And thousands of dollars in courses and coaching.
Yes, trying to drag that furniture assembling weakness up to the average line.
And what is the actual yield on that investment?
Very little.
You burn incredible amounts of fuel just to stay in neutral. You've worked incredibly hard just to become entirely average at something you fundamentally resent doing.
And the opportunity cost of that is staggering.
Because of the time you lost.
Right. While you were spending 6 hours crying over a hex key and a particle board desk, you missed the opportunity to de-escalate 5 high-stakes client situations.
Which is where your actual genius lies.
Exactly. The text provides a deeply illustrative physical example of this dynamic.
Oh, I know the one you mean.
It analyzes the life of a globally renowned motivational speaker who was born entirely without limbs, no arms, no legs.
Right.
Now imagine if the medical and educational establishment had successfully forced him to subscribe to the standard societal advice.
You mean the advice of working on your weaknesses?
Yes. If he had spent his life focused on his deficits.
Say dedicating 10 hours a day to mastering complex prosthetics just so he could achieve a normal physical average.
Like being able to slowly carry a briefcase or open a door unassisted.
The results would have been tragically limited.
He would have spent his entire waking life fighting an agonizing, unwinnable battle against his own physical reality.
He would have been celebrated for his quote-unquote perseverance, I guess.
Sure, in achieving a baseline that most people just take for granted, but his actual gift would have withered.
So what did he do instead?
He ignored the physical weakness entirely.
Completely ignored it.
He focused exclusively on his strength.
Huh.
His indomitable psychological spirit, his brilliant mind, and his incredibly resonant voice.
And by pouring 100% of his energy into the things that were above his personal average.
He amplified his strengths to such a degree that he reached and transformed the lives of millions of people globally.
His physical weaknesses became functionally irrelevant.
Because his psychological strengths were so overwhelming.
It is literally the superhero principle.
How do you mean?
Well, no one reads a comic book and critiques the Hulk for lacking diplomatic finesse.
That's very true.
You don't sit there thinking, well, his ability to smash a meteor is great, but his active listening skills are really subpar.
Right, you don't care about his listening skills.
He leans entirely unapologetically into his given power.
Exactly.
But let me push back on this, because translating this from a comic book or a motivational stage into a corporate office is messy.
It definitely is.
In the real world, you sit down for a performance review or a job interview, and the manager leans across the desk, folds their hands, and asks,
So tell me about your weaknesses.
exactly. We are structurally penalized in society if we pretend our flaws do not exist.
You're not wrong.
I mean, I cannot just look my producer in the eye and say, I am ignoring my inability to meet audio deadlines, because punctuality is not my superhero power.
No, and you shouldn't, because ignoring a weakness in this framework does not mean you are delusional or lacking self-awareness.
Okay, so what does it mean then?
It means you stop trying to use that specific weakness as a tool to solve your problems.
You don't fix the broken tool.
Right, you reach for a different tool in your box entirely. Weaknesses only cause damage when you rely on them to bear weight.
Okay, so in the context of a job,
If structural organization is a profound weakness for you, you do not spend weeks taking courses on complex spreadsheet coding.
because that actively fights your neurological wiring.
Exactly. Instead, you deploy a strength to navigate around the weakness.
So if my strength is relationship building and charismatic negotiation, I use that to bypass the organizational deficit.
Exactly. How would you do that?
I'd go to a highly organized colleague and I say, I will handle your 3 most difficult client calls this week, the ones you dread, if you spend 1 hour organizing my project pipeline.
Yes. And notice the mechanics of what just happened there.
I solve the organizational problem.
But you did it by deploying your charisma,
Yeah.
not by forcing yourself to become organized. You bypassed the weakness by strictly deploying your strengths.
I love the mechanics of that.
Yeah.
But it brings us to a massive practical hurdle.
Riches.
If leaning entirely into our strengths is the ultimate goal, how do we actually identify them without bias?
That is the million-dollar question.
Especially when that morning mirror inventory, that loud internal auditor we talked about, is so incredibly focused on our flaws.
It's hard to hear anything else.
If I look at my life, my weaknesses are highlighted in neon, but my strengths just feel like, normal things I do.
That blindness to our own gifts is very common, actually. Because our strengths come so naturally to us that we assume they must be easy for everyone else, too.
Oh, that makes sense.
To find your strengths, you do not start by looking at a generic list of resume skills. You start by looking at your behavioral defaults.
How I naturally, instinctively approach everyday friction.
Precisely. The source material outlines a fascinating framework, identifying 5 distinct problem-solving archetypes.
5 archetypes.
And what is vital to understand here is why these develop. They are not arbitrary personality quirks.
No doubt.
They are deep-seated, often biologically or childhood-driven survival strategies.
Okay, let's test this out. Instead of just listing them, let's see if we can diagnose my archetype.
I'm ready.
When a massive problem hits me, say a huge piece of equipment breaks an hour before we are supposed to record, my immediate biological instinct is to isolate.
Interesting.
My heart rate drops, I get very quiet, I tell everyone to leave the room, and I tear the manual apart myself.
You shut everyone out.
I do not want input, I want control. What does the text call that?
The text would categorize you as the knight.
The knight.
The knight is someone whose neurobiology interprets external input during a crisis as noise or threat.
Yes, exactly.
They solve problems completely alone. They are highly independent, incredibly self-confident in their own deductive reasoning, and they trust their own judgment implicitly.
It feels safer that way.
Historically or evolutionarily, this is the scout who survives by relying solely on their own senses.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
I feel a physical aversion to committee decisions when things go wrong.
But what is the shadow side of that? Because I know you have definitely made things worse by locking the door.
Oh, absolutely. I'll spend 3 hours trying to fix a wire when someone else could have just handed me a spare.
Right. The shadow side is a stubborn, ego-driven perfectionism. Knights risk catastrophic failure because they lack a biological trigger to ask for help when they are truly out of their depth.
They just keep pushing alone.
They will ride out solo against an entire army, and they will get surrounded and destroyed rather than sound the retreat horn.
Okay, so that is the knight. What if someone has that same independence, but they cannot pull the trigger without a safety net?
Give me an example.
I have a friend who will research a new car for months, make a definitive choice, but then call 3 different people to explain his spreadsheet before he actually signs the lease.
Ah, that is the boxer.
The boxer.
The boxer makes their own decisions, but their psychological safety is tied to external confirmation.
So they need someone to say, yes, good job.
Exactly. They develop this often because of early environments where their independent choices were questioned, so they learn to build a defensive case before acting.
I see.
They step into the ring alone, they throw their own punches, but they desperately need to hear their trainer in the corner yelling, "Good combination!" to validate that they are doing it right.
So they have the independence of the knight, but they require an audience for validation.
Exactly.
What about the people who thrive on committee? The ones who genuinely want everyone's opinion?
That splits into 2 distinct archetypes, actually.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first is the martial artist. This archetype is highly strategic and computationally heavy.
How so?
When faced with a problem, the martial artist actively gathers diverse, conflicting advice. They will consult the industry expert, their grandmother, a philosophy book, and a Reddit forum.
That sounds overwhelming.
But, and this is the key, they do not do this to be told what to do.
Oh, they don't?
No. They do it to map the entire terrain and narrow down their options. Once they have synthesized all the data, they discard the noise and trust their gut for the final strike.
That sounds incredibly effective, honestly.
It is, but the cognitive load of processing all those conflicting opinions must be exhausting.
Right, which leads to the other committee archetype.
Yes, the 4th archetype, the wrestler. They take a different approach to community entirely.
How is the wrestler different?
The wrestler operates entirely on the strength of loyalty and hierarchy. When a problem arises, they rely heavily on the advice of a very tight-knit inner circle.
But they just ask their people.
If their trusted mentor or best friend advises a course of action, the wrestler follows it faithfully, almost without question.
That sounds kind of dangerous. What if the mentor is wrong?
It can be dangerous, absolutely, but the evolutionary strength here is profound social cohesion.
Right, they stick together.
They do not need to be the smartest person in the room. They just need to correctly identify and trust the smartest person in their room. Their strength is building unbreakable alliances.
Okay, so we have covered the solo problem solvers and the community problem solvers. What is the final archetype?
The final archetype is the one most severely punished by modern corporate culture. The snail.
The snail. I can already guess why they get punished. The snail sounds slow.
It is perceived as slow, yes. But it is actually about energy conservation and timing.
What do they do?
The snail waits patiently for the problem to resolve itself organically.
They just wait.
I can actually give you a personal example of this. Years ago, I was caught in the middle of a massive corporate merger.
Oh, those are always messy.
Entire departments were panicking, people were aggressively jockeying for new positions, sending out hundreds of emails, forming factions, pure chaos.
And what did you do?
My biological instinct, which I used to feel incredibly guilty about, by the way, was to do absolutely nothing. I retreated into my shell.
You just kept your head down.
I just kept doing my daily work and watched the storm.
And what happened? I imagine the knights and the boxers were trying to force you to pick a side.
They were, and it was uncomfortable, but 6 weeks later, the merger fell through due to regulatory issues.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it didn't even happen.
Exactly. All those people who panicked had burned bridges, exhausted themselves, and created enemies for a new reality that never even materialized.
And you were just fine.
The snail understands that many crises are just passing weather systems. Instead of reacting frantically, they retreat, conserve their central nervous system, and let time do the heavy lifting.
Their profound strength is an intuitive understanding of natural timing.
Yes.
You know, I think about this framework kind of like starting a massive role-playing video game.
Oh, I like this analogy. Go on.
Before the game even starts, you are on the character creation screen. Right. You have a limited number of points to allocate to your character's baseline stats. You put points into intelligence or physical strength or charisma.
You build your baseline?
Now, once you hit start and you are actually playing the game, you do not get angry that your magical wizard character is completely incapable of lifting a heavy boulder.
Because that's not what a wizard does.
Exactly. You do not spend 70 hours of gameplay trying to make the fragile wizard do barbell squats. You play the hand you built.
You use your magic to levitate the boulder.
Or you find a path around it. You accept the character's fundamental nature and optimize their journey based entirely on those given stats.
And if we apply that to the real world, it explains the deep ambient misery of so many high-functioning adults.
They are playing a wizard.
But they are spending their entire life sweating in the blacksmith's forge.
Yes, wondering why they feel so unfulfilled.
And why their armor always looks terrible. But there is a massive psychological hurdle we have to cross before we can just easily accept our quote-unquote character.
What's the hurdle?
You cannot objectively map your strengths or play your character effectively if you subconsciously despise the character you are playing.
Oh, that hits hard.
It's the truth.
If you fundamentally resent your own baseline stats, if you are a snail who hates yourself for not being a knight, no amount of strategy or life hacking is going to help, the foundation is rotten.
Precisely. And the terrifying part of that is how normalized that self-resentment is.
It's everywhere.
The texts argue that to unlock our true strength, we must cross a radical psychological threshold. The core issue is that most of us constantly outsource our validation.
We wait for other people to tell us we're okay.
We treat our self-esteem like a gig economy worker. We are constantly waiting for a partner, a demanding boss, or social media metrics to validate our existence.
We essentially beg for crumbs of affection to feel whole.
It is a toxic codependency, not just with a romantic partner, but with the world at large.
We structure our internal monologue to say, I will be worthy of basic respect when my boss finally praises this presentation.
Or, I will feel acceptable when I lose 12 pounds and someone at a party notices.
And that puts you in a position of ultimate vulnerability.
You have handed the remote control to your nervous system to a world that largely does not care about you.
So how do we take the remote control back?
The proposed solution in the source material is not just a gentle mental reframe. It is a profound, literal, and physical ritual.
A physical ritual.
It sounds highly unconventional, but the psychological impact of externalizing an internal commitment is immense.
What is the solution?
The solution is marrying yourself.
Okay, marrying yourself. Let's really dig into this because I know to a segment of the audience listening right now, that phrase sounds like the peak of narcissistic crystal healing nonsense.
I know, it sounds very out there.
But the mechanics behind it are actually incredibly grounded. What does this literal ritual look like?
It is a solemn, non-negotiable vow to be by your own side, in sickness and in health, in victory, and more importantly, in catastrophic failure.
But you physically do it.
Yes. The text suggests making it a physical reality to bypass the brain's tendency to ignore abstract thoughts. You actually write out vows.
You dress up.
You take yourself to a beautiful, significant location, and you hold a private ceremony celebrating yourself.
Wow.
It is the ultimate physical rejection of the idea that you are a half measure waiting for someone else to make you whole.
Imagine the actual sensory experience of this internal wedding.
Picture it.
Think about sitting at a solid, heavy wooden desk. The quiet, tactile scratch of a good fountain pen on thick, textured paper as you write down promises to yourself.
Promises you actually finally intend to keep.
Right. Imagine the physical sensation in your body of taking a deep, unknotted breath in a perfectly quiet room and feeling this warm, comforting sense of internal solidarity.
It is like placing a firm, protective hand over your own chest.
Feeling the steady rhythm of your heart and saying, I have got you, no matter who leaves, no matter what falls apart today, I am not abandoning you.
And we desperately need that ritual because of how quickly we usually abandon ourselves.
We do so fast.
We make these grand vows to other people at altars, promising to stand by them when they lose their jobs, to love them when they are sick or difficult.
But the literal second we make a mistake, we dry a glass, we fumble a meeting, our internal monologue becomes vicious.
We call ourselves stupid. We abandon ourselves at the first sign of internal trouble.
So this marriage is a ritual to permanently break that neurobiological pattern of self-abandonment.
Exactly.
I think society often mislabels this level of fierce self-protection as egomania, though.
Oh, constantly.
People hear "theory yourself," and they picture a deeply selfish person who ignores everyone else's needs.
Which is a complete misunderstanding of how human energy works.
How so?
True egomania is a bottomless pit of need. An egomaniac is a person constantly demanding validation from everyone else because their internal circuit is completely broken.
You're a parasitic circuit.
Exactly, constantly plugging into other people to keep their own lights on. But a person who truly loves themselves, who has effectively married themselves, operates as a closed-loop electrical circuit.
They generate their own power.
A closed-loop circuit.
I love that.
Because they generate their own power, they no longer approach relationships, work, or friendships as a starving person desperately looking for a meal.
They approach life as someone who is already fully charged, looking to eliminate the space around them.
True self-love is essentially an act of environmental protection for your social circle.
Environmental protection for your social circle.
You stop draining the emotional batteries of the people around you.
That reframes the entire concept of self-care. When you are not constantly demanding that your partner or your best friend regulate your nervous system and fix your self-esteem, they actually get the freedom to just enjoy existing in your presence.
Right. You are a full cup.
But let's ground this in a Tuesday morning reality. Let's say you take the vow. The ink is dry on the thick paper. You are officially married to yourself.
Congratulations.
Thanks. How is this maintained? Because marriages take work.
They absolutely do.
The text outlines specific virtues of self-love to maintain this internal alliance. Where do we begin the maintenance?
The daily maintenance begins with auditing and freeing our minds from self-hypnosis.
Self-hypnosis.
Whether we consciously realize it or not, we are constantly hypnotizing ourselves through repetition.
Give me an example.
Every single time you look in that bathroom mirror and casually think, I'm way too old to pivot into a new industry, or I am just fundamentally bad at learning new software, you are implanting a hypnotic suggestion directly into your own subconscious.
And the brain does not distinguish between a casual, self-deprecating joke and a core command, does it?
Exactly. And the terrifying part of that is the reticular activating system, or the RAS in your brain.
It acts as a filter, right?
Yes. If you program it with the hypnotic suggestion that I am too old, your brain accepts that statement as absolute biological fact.
It doesn't question it.
It will then actively filter your reality to prove it right. It will ignore the 3 older people who just got promoted and highlight the 1 young prodigy, confirming your bias.
You are literally coding the walls of your own digital prison.
You really are.
But there's a massive trap here. When people realize that negative self-talk is hypnotic, they often swing wildly to the opposite extreme.
The self-help industry pushes that relentlessly.
Right. Everything is perfect. I am a magnet for wealth. The universe is handing me my dream life right now.
Even as their car is being repossessed.
Yes.
The texts warn heavily and almost aggressively against the toxic trap of forced positivity.
It has been completely weaponized by corporate culture, hasn't it?
The idea that a bad attitude is a moral failing. We live in a dual world of light and dark, expansion and contraction.
You can't just smile through disaster.
Forcing yourself to plaster a psychotic smile over a genuine tragedy is not an act of self-love. It is an act of deep self-delusion and emotional suppression.
And there's a real physiological cost to that.
Right.
Suppressing negative emotion spikes cortisol.
It absolutely does. When you lie to your own nervous system, your body knows.
It keeps the score.
It is incredibly healthy and frankly biologically necessary to occasionally sit down in your kitchen, look at the absolute wreckage of your week, and admit out loud, today is a complete garbage day.
I am angry, I am tired, and everything went wrong.
And you must be able to declare that reality without feeling a secondary layer of spiritual guilt, worrying that you are somehow manifesting more negativity by acknowledging the truth.
You have to honor reality before you can change it.
Always.
So we are walking a very tight rope here. If we should not hypnotize ourselves with chronic negativity, but we also must completely reject the delusion of toxic positivity, what is the actual mechanical middle ground?
How do we handle it?
Right, how do I handle a negative thought on a Tuesday at 2 p.m.? The text introduces a technique that I find brilliant. It is called mental Aikido.
Mental Aikido.
Aikido being the Japanese martial art where the fundamental philosophy is that you never block a larger opponent's strike with brute force.
You do not meet force with force because you will lose.
Instead, you blend with their kinetic energy, pivot, and redirect their momentum past you.
So apply that to the mind.
Right. When a massive, heavy negative thought comes swinging at you, say you bomb a presentation and the thought is, you are an absolute fraud, your instinct is usually to fight it.
You try to argue with it. No, I'm not. I'm smart. I read a lot.
But fighting it just gives it more energy. You get tangled up in a mental wrestling match with your own insecurity.
Mental Aikido says you do not fight the thought.
You redirect its momentum by asking a high-quality question.
This relies on understanding the brain as a compulsive, unyielding supercomputer.
Right.
If you type a terrible prompt into a search engine, you get millions of terrible, useless results.
That's just how the algorithm works.
If you mess up that presentation and you ask yourself in despair, why do I always constantly mess these things up? Your brain's search engine goes to work.
It instantly generates a highly documented, chronological 10-year history of every single time you have ever stumbled over your words, failed a test, or disappointed someone.
Just to accurately answer the prompt you gave it.
Wow.
It accesses the deepest archives of your failures to provide a scientifically accurate answer to a fundamentally flawed question.
But with mental Aikido, you pivot the prompt.
Instead of asking why you are a chronic failure, you absorb the reality of the bad presentation and you ask, what is the hidden structural gift in this exact situation?
Or what specific data is this failure trying to hand me about my preparation process?
The human brain cannot resist a puzzle. It cannot leave a question unanswered.
If you forcefully ask it to locate the hidden gift, it has to stop berating you and redirect all its processing power towards searching for the silver lining or the tactical lesson.
You completely shift your neurological state just by changing the syntax of the prompt.
It's a genius redirect.
Hmm.
And if we are mapping this entire system of self-marriage, we cannot leave it purely in the cognitive realm, right?
No, we have to address the physical vessel.
The body.
For centuries, our societal, industrial, and even historical structures have treated the human body with deep suspicion or outright hostility.
The body has been viewed either as a literal machine to be ruthlessly exploited for labor until it breaks,
Or as an unruly, sinful object that needs to be rigidly controlled, starved, and disciplined.
we treat our bodies like a rental car that we are annoyed we have to put gas into.
Exactly. The texts emphasize that a critical component of marrying yourself is radically reclaiming the body,
Not viewing it as a beast of burden that carries your brain from meeting to meeting.
but honoring it as an exquisite, highly sensitive sensory vessel. It is structurally designed for experiencing pleasure, joy, and the immense physical texture of the world.
It is the difference between blindly gulping down your morning coffee just to extract the chemical caffeine.
Versus actually pausing for 3 seconds to feel the warmth of the ceramic mug, smell the roasted beans, and taste the bitterness.
It's feeling the actual texture of the cotton shirt against your shoulders. But to truly inhabit the body and the mind in that deeply sensory way, you have to strip away the ambient static.
The modern world is overwhelmingly loud.
Which brings us to the next practical transition. The text is very firm on this. We must actively, intentionally seek out solitude.
Solitude is the laboratory where all this integration actually happens.
We are born alone.
And ultimately, despite all our connections, we experience the subjective internal reality of our entire lives alone.
Yet we are absolutely terrified of silence.
We view it as an empty void that must be filled. We constantly pacify our nervous systems with podcasts, background music, infinite scrolling, and trivial small talk.
We do this because sitting in intentional, unmedicated silence allows all the suppressed, heavy emotions we have been outrunning to finally rise to the surface.
We use noise as a structural retaining wall against our own anxiety.
But when you finally give those suppressed emotions space in the silence, they do something remarkable.
They deliver their underlying chemical message, they are processed by the body, and then they naturally dissolve.
They only fester and grow toxic when we chronically ignore them.
Right.
I want you, the listener, to try to visualize this. Paint this specific picture in your mind. Imagine consciously choosing to sit alone in a dim, comfortable room in your house.
No phone in your hand.
No television flickering in the background.
Yeah.
No lo-fi beats playing.
Nothing but the low, mechanical, rhythmic hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen and the steady rising and falling sound of your own breathing.
For the first 5 minutes, it is absolute agony.
There is a profound, crawling itch of anxiety under your skin.
Your dopamine-starved brain is screaming, begging for a distraction, a notification, anything.
But if you can just sit through that initial withdrawal sequence, it is followed by a profound, heavy settling of peace.
It is like a glass of muddy water. If you stop shaking it, the sediment finally drops to the very bottom and the water becomes crystal clear.
That clarity is beautiful, but there is a very dangerous trapdoor in that process.
The trapdoor.
When the water gets clear and the external world gets completely quiet, the inner critic, that chronic, complaining, hypervigilant roommate living inside your head, often gets substantially louder before it gets quiet.
Oh, it uses the silence to launch a full-scale ambush.
Absolutely.
I will be sitting in silence, trying to process my day, and my inner critic will suddenly hit me with, hey, remember that incredibly arrogant, stupid thing you said to a colleague at a conference 3 entire years ago? Let's replay that memory in high definition and feel the shame all over again.
Or it starts projecting into the future. You are falling behind. Everyone else your age has figured this out, and you are stalling.
It scans your entire history for vulnerabilities.
But the text provides a masterful and shockingly simplistic weapon to defeat this critic.
What is it?
It is the so what mantra.
The so what mantra. Let's unpack the mechanics of this, because on the surface, it sounds dismissive.
It is an exercise in radical acceptance and rapid de-escalation of the nervous system.
How does it work?
When the inner critic screams a terrifying, deeply personal accusation at you, your default response is usually to panic, to argue back, or to desperately defend your ego.
Right.
The so what mantra interrupts that pattern. When the critic yells, "You are falling behind," you simply shrug mentally, refuse to engage in the debate, and say, "So what?"
Okay, I have to play the skeptic here, because I can hear the high achievers in the audience objecting loudly.
Bring it on.
If my inner critic looks at my life and says, "You are completely disorganized, your desk is a disaster, and you missed a deadline," and my response is just a breezy, "So what?" Doesn't that just make me apathetic?
That's the fear.
Doesn't that mean I have essentially given up on excellence and I am just passively accepting my own failure?
That is the most common fear, the fear that without self-flagellation we will do nothing.
Exactly.
But the psychological brilliance of so what operates on a completely different mechanical level. It absolutely does not deny physical reality.
It doesn't mean the desk isn't messy.
Right. If your desk is a mess and you missed a deadline, those are factual events. What the so what mantra does is completely sever the panic and the shame from the event.
It severs the shame.
It acts as a circuit breaker for your amygdala. It downgrades a stressful, self-defining problem into a neutral, observable phenomenon.
A problem versus a phenomenon. Let's dig into that distinction. How does the brain process those differently?
A problem is perceived by the amygdala as a direct threat to your survival or your tribal status.
It creates immense defensive tension.
It triggers the fight, flight, or freeze response, flooding your body with cortisol.
When you view your disorganization as a fundamental, shameful problem with your core character, you feel immense guilt, which paradoxically leads to behavioral paralysis.
You feel so bad about the messy desk that you avoid the room entirely.
Because engaging with the desk means engaging with the shame.
Yes. A phenomenon, on the other hand, is just an observation of reality without a moral judgment attached to it.
Like a fact.
It is a fact on the ground, like the weather. It is raining. That is a phenomenon. You do not feel deep personal shame about the rain.
Hopefully not.
A phenomenon can be calmly tweaked, managed, or even completely ignored without it attacking your core self-worth.
So when your inner critic screams, "You are a disorganized disaster," and you say, "So what?" That is just a phenomenon of how my specific brain prioritizes tasks right now. You instantly neutralize the threat response.
You remove the shame. And ironically, without the paralyzing weight of the shame, you actually have the free cognitive bandwidth to calmly clean your desk if you rationally decide it needs to be done.
It completely neutralizes the emotional charge.
Yes.
It is like diffusing a bomb, not by painstakingly cutting the wires, but just by unplugging the power source.
That's exactly.
You are disorganized. So what? You are getting older and you don't have it all figured out. So what? You forgot a name 3 years ago. So what?
It is incredibly liberating because the critic has nothing to push against. It is punching water.
And this brings us to the ultimate culmination of this entire framework. This is where all the pieces lock together.
The final stage.
Once the inner critic is neutralized and quieted through the so what circuit breaker, once baseline self-love is established through the marriage vow, so you aren't bleeding energy-seeking validation, and the mind is cleared of hypnotic negativity.
You can finally, safely deploy those innate strengths we talked about at the very beginning to their absolute maximum potential.
Right, because you are no longer wasting 80% of your daily battery life just fighting internal civil wars.
You are operating fully charged.
The text described this ultimate state of operation through a specific diagram called the ability circle.
It is a visual map of human potential.
And the tragic reality it highlights is that so many incredibly smart, capable people fall into the trap of just swimming with the current of societal expectations.
They put their actual wild strengths to sleep.
They dutifully do what is expected of them, and they comfort themselves late at night with the illusion of, well, I could do something truly amazing if I really applied myself.
The illusion of untapped potential is an incredibly warm, comfortable blanket.
It protects you from the terrifying risk of actual failure.
If you never truly try, you never truly fail.
But peak performance, the state of true, vibrating self-actualization, only happens at a very specific, rare intersection of three distinct variables.
Imagine a diagram with three overlapping circles.
Okay, I'm drawing it in my mind. What is the first circle?
Circle 1 contains your innate strengths. These are the things we defined earlier, the behaviors and skills you naturally execute above your own personal average.
Okay, strengths. What's the second?
Circle 2 contains the things that bring you immense, unadulterated joy and fun.
The activities that light up your nervous system and make time completely disappear.
Exactly. And Circle 3 contains what gives you a deep, resonant sense of meaning.
The pursuits that align with your core values and feel genuinely important to the broader world.
Strengths, joy, and meaning.
Now, I want to explore the friction here,
Yeah.
because it is rarely a perfect overlap, right? What happens when you only have two of the three circles?
Okay, give me a scenario.
Let's say you have immense strength and a deep sense of meaning, but absolutely no joy.
That is the classic recipe for high-functioning burnout.
You see this often in medicine or nonprofit work, right?
Yes, you are exceptionally good at it, and it is saving lives, so it has immense meaning. But the daily reality drains you of all joy. It becomes a noble, crushing duty.
You are trapped by your own competence and morality, but your spirit slowly dies.
Exactly.
Okay, what if you have joy and meaning, but you lack the innate strength?
Then you are a passionate, frustrated amateur.
Oh, that sounds painful.
You love doing it, and you believe it matters, but you fundamentally lack the baseline capability to execute it at a level that creates real impact.
You spend your life banging your head against a wall, wondering why your pure intentions are not translating into results.
Precisely.
And what if you have strength and joy, but no meaning?
You have a freely entertaining, incredibly lucrative hobby.
Like what?
Maybe you are a brilliant day trader who loves the thrill of the market and you are exceptionally good at it. It is fun and it is a strength.
But late at night, in the quiet moments, it feels entirely hollow because it lacks a fundamental connection to a greater purpose.
It is a sugar rush, not a meal.
So the goal is to ruthlessly maneuver your life until you are standing in that tiny central sliver where all three circles overlap.
The intersection of what you are naturally good at, what you love doing, and what matters.
And arriving at that center point brings us to what the text refers to as the ultimate discipline, the royal discipline.
Culmination of it all.
Because the journey of deep self-improvement, of marrying yourself, and of neutralizing your flaws does not end with you just sitting isolated on a mountain of personal success, staring at a mirror, admiring how optimized you are.
No, because that would just be a sophisticated exercise in vanity.
The ultimate goal of optimizing your strengths and achieving this internal harmony is not to hoard success or isolate yourself from the world.
The royal discipline is to serve.
To serve.
When you are operating in that rare intersection of strength, joy, and meaning, you naturally, almost effortlessly become of profound transformative use to the people around you.
You cannot help it. It's a byproduct of your state of being.
Let's ground this in a final analogy. Think about a massive ancient oak tree in the middle of a dense forest.
Okay, I see it.
A tree does not wake up and aggressively try to optimize its photosynthesis just to show off to the other trees.
It does not look over at a towering pine tree and feel a crushing sense of insecurity about its broad leaves.
It simply sinks its roots as deeply as violently possible into the nourishing soil of its own specific environment. It accepts exactly what it is.
And because it does that without resistance, it grows incredibly strong.
And as a completely natural, unforced byproduct of its own health, it drops acorns that feed the wildlife.
Its sprawling branches provide vital shelter for birds, and its leaves create oxygen for the entire ecosystem.
It serves the entire forest simply by being the most unapologetic, fully realized version of an oak tree.
That is the perfect synthesis of this entire philosophy. Human potential was never meant to mirror the flawless, uniform efficiency of a factory assembly line.
No, it wasn't. The texts actually make a brilliant passing nod to those iconic, anxiety-inducing industrial-era silent films.
Where you see the worker at the conveyor belt, turning wrenches faster and faster, desperately trying to keep up with the relentless pace of the machine until he literally loses his mind.
That image is exactly what trying to fix all our weaknesses looks like in the modern psyche. We are trying to become uniform, flawless, interchangeable machines.
But we are not machines. True human potential is deeply organic.
It is beautifully, frustratingly asymmetric.
It is wildly unique to every single individual. It requires us to completely and finally abandon the exhausting, life-draining pursuit of fixing every single flaw.
And instead, to double down entirely on the brilliant, we're highly specific strengths we were given at birth.
When you finally stop fighting your own baseline nature, you free up an immense, almost unbelievable amount of cognitive and emotional energy to actually live your life.
You shift your entire internal paradigm from a state of chronic self-correction to a state of radical self-celebration.
And in doing so, you become a deep, reliable source of stability, joy, and service for everyone around you.
It's transformative.
So let's bring it all the way back to where we started. Tomorrow morning, when you were standing in front of that bathroom mirror, and the steam clears from the glass, and that familiar, critical mental inventory inevitably tries to start up again.
As it always does.
I want you to pause. Feel the tiles under your feet. Listen to the hum of the fan. And I want you to really think about the way you speak to yourself in the absolute quietest moments of your day.
The tone of your internal voice.
The harshness of the words you casually use against yourself. If you spoke to your absolute best friend the exact same way you speak to yourself every single morning, how long would that friendship honestly last?
A day, an hour.
Would they ever speak to you again? Maybe today is the perfect day to finally send out that one-person wedding invitation. Something to think about.